Hi, we're with the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch, and we're going to be doing our Instagram live with a member of our student panel who will be joining us here shortly. Thank you all for tuning in today.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, well, nothing much. Just doing SAT study work this week and today, and it's a lot.
How's
Yeah.
it going?
It's going pretty good. I think I'm okay for most of the sections and think I'll be prepared for my test that's coming this Wednesday. So, just just a little nervous. And like some language for the SAT is hard to understand, but it should be good.
Yeah, I mean, I can reflect back on that period of time, so I have deep empathy for what you're doing, and
Yeah.
it's definitely a challenge. I want to give you a quick introduction. So we got
Okay.
Imaan. We've had your sister and your mom on before.
Yeah.
If that's right. And I
hmm
pronounced your name
Yeah.
correctly? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Um, and you're a senior. You're in your senior
hmm
year.
Yep.
And right now is prepping for the SATs. He's a member of our student panel. Big outdoors person, a soccer player.
Yeah. I went on my first backpacking trip this summer. It was 5 days, 40 miles down in Rogue River, Oregon, and that was super awesome.
Oh, so we're gonna jump into what you're doing right now because I think the audience will really appreciate that. But I wanna. Can we start with your journey? Like, when were you diagnosed?
Okay, so when I was diagnosed, if I remember correctly, I was diagnosed sometime during the fifth grade. So like really late, like in the game, I guess. Like I've heard like people being diagnosed way earlier. So like fifth grade is around the time where I got tested and like I got diagnosed with dyslexia.
And so, how was school for you up to that point?
Okay.
Do you remember? Can
School.
you remember anything?
Yeah, I can remember. I remember like doing like spelling tests in like the first grade and up into that point, and like those were always really hard to do. And the trick my mom taught me, which I've long forgotten because I don't really take spelling tests anymore, is that she would teach me like sign language, as in just like finger spelling for like the letters. So like I would like do like I would be like, okay, how do you spell this word? And then I would like sign it to myself and go through the letters and do the hand motions and then write it down on the piece of paper. And like that's how I would remember um how to spell like the words that were required for the weekly uh vocabulary tests.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, you already got a comment on the line. Nightmares are made for fish climbing trees. I think in regard to spelling tests. But what's so brilliant about the tactic, though, that I want to touch on is it's like muscle memory that you're like
Yeah.
converting. Yeah. So I did a similar thing. I was learning how to count the words on my
Yeah. Okay.
fingers. So that's I can relate. Okay, so
Yeah.
then so you're in that struggle, and then you get diagnosed. Was school better for you after that, or what was school like after being
School
diagnosed?
was better. And like I also had some like really great teachers, especially in my fifth and sixth grade class. Like I was like super disorganized and like you'd have to go all over the paper to just follow my line of thinking. And like my teacher for my fifth and sixth grade class, um, Mrs. Patrice, she would be like, oh, she would like follow all my work, like, oh, it starts at this part of the page and then wanders over here and then ends up back over here. And she also helped me with writing and reading, and she and my other teacher for middle school um, teacher Caitlin, or Mrs. Littlefield. She was also a super great help for like just like writing and like helping me edit my papers and like going through the process with me and how to improve and expand on my writing. And then also teaching me like Algebra 1 and like so like those two teachers were like super awesome and like amazing for helping me in my journey.
Isn't it amazing, Imaan, how we can remember those people that have that like
Yeah.
impact on us, that are willing to like work with us and how we think as
Yeah.
dyslexics, and
Mhm.
very much change the game?
Yeah. They
Okay,
were
oh, go ahead.
just awesome. They were just awesome.
Oh, so cool. So, were
Mhm.
there any challenges that you faced, like that you can remember?
Challenges.
Was there an example of like, shoot, like this was a hard day, or this was a nightmare for me in school?
Well, I have like two like stories. So like the first story, like which is I think is pretty individual to me, is like I remember like from like kindergarten through like the third and fourth grade, like always like struggling with reading. And it was just like I was like reading Jack and Annie books while like other kids were doing other stuff. And like I struggled with reading and it just took me longer. I remember picking up the Warriors book series because like all my friends were like reading it. I remember from that point on, my reading just like snapped my fingers, just improved and just kept on improving leaps and bounds. And I personally love reading. Sure, and it takes me longer than other people, but it's like one of my favorite pastime activities. And I just delved into the world of fantasy, and then I also like used audiobooks to like listen to like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, which are some of my favorite books ever. I just think they'd be really hard to actually read rather than to listen to.
Wow. So it's
Yeah.
interesting because like when you, like for dyslexics, reading is a challenge, you know, in general
Yeah.
for me, and it sounds like for you, but it's also like something you enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's really for me like I feel like I was able to improve and strengthen my ability to read, and now I use it, and like that's what I would do in my pastime now is like listen to music and like read, and it helps me like relieve stress. And like it's I know it's not typical for the stereotype dyslexic, like it's not typical to like enjoy reading, but like it just shows that dyslexia is just like it's just like there's totally different types of dyslexia and how it affects people in many different ways. So like you might have someone who hates reading, or someone who's really struggles with math, or someone who really struggles with writing, and there's just so much variation, but it's still the same thing. It just comes in many different shapes and sizes.
Awesome, and great messaging. I think that's so important
Mhm.
to articulate to our audience and to people out there so that they can feel connected, because I think there's a bunch of people that are, you know, it's just different for everybody and what their experience is. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. We
Yeah.
have a question on the line while we're kind of on the subject, is were your teachers familiar with dyslexia?
Really familiar. I think like I had teachers who had dyslexia or had students that were like familiar and kind of knew what happened. Like they didn't like specifically maybe word it as dyslexia during
Yeah,
like my middle school career, but like they were still like willing to work with me and to help me with my struggles, and like they're still willing to be nice and be human and to understand that we all struggle in different areas, and that if you help your students work on them and help them get through it, that they can still perform great in school. It just might need a little bit of extra help.
absolutely, absolutely. What? Okay, so I want to talk. We're going to get into what you're doing now because I think it's so important. But we
Okay.
got a few things to cover before then, because
Okay.
I
Yeah.
want to talk about your advocacy work, and like when were you comfortable talking about dyslexia?
So I feel I'm pretty comfortable talking with my teachers, and like some of my older friends know that I have dyslexia, but many of my peers in high school might vaguely know, but I like haven't really like explicitly told them. So like what I did was me and my mom and my family, we all sat down and we typed up a letter saying what dyslexia is, how it affects me, my accommodations, my plan, and I hand it to teachers every year. And then they'd be like, okay, they know what I need, and then now we can work from there, and then figure out what I need to do for this class. But that also changed this year. Luckily enough, I had a bunch of older teachers who already knew about my accommodations, the things I need. But like, because I can't like hand in a letter saying like this is what I struggle with, I would go to my teacher's office hours and tell them about how I have dyslexia and like ADD and like what I need from the teachers to help me be successful and like let them know about my accommodations. So it was a little different this year, but I feel I was pretty confident for advocating, like kind of starting freshman year, but really coming through sophomore year.
Yeah, and you kind of broke up there, but I think I got it. Like, it sounds like you were kind of like, you've been in that transition mode of advocating freshman year, and then as you got into sophomore year, you were like, okay, I'm dialed. I know what I want to say, and I know how to articulate it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah.
How about supporting other students? Like, I mean, not only are you dealing with your own challenges, but you're out there talking about dyslexia. You're giving yourself essentially you're giving other students a voice by connecting with them. What is that like? What has that process been like for you?
I think that it was really valuable to me to be able to share my story and the struggles I've gone through, and to be able to step out into the light and tell them that about myself, because many other people maybe struggle with that or are uncomfortable like talking to other people with their struggles with dyslexia. And if they can listen to other people and realize that they aren't alone, and that there's that they can come here or to anyone for help and to like work through their struggles. And I think that's impactful, and I value being able to do that.
So awesome, so powerful, so needed. And I think, we do these conversations through the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch, and part of this work is just sharing what these students are doing and the advocacy that they're doing in their own communities. And it's just so awesome, man. I can't thank you enough for the work you're doing, and you're impacting lives of people that you won't even meet by sharing your story. So it's really powerful. I want to get into, okay, so I know we were talking about it earlier before we kind of started to get going, but tell the audience what you're doing now.
Okay, what I'm doing now, I am applying for colleges, and I am studying for the SAT, and there's a lot of work. I'm applying for scholarships and like writing essays and just dialing in to the next step that I need to take to further my education and to really start to become an adult.
Totally. So we got some layers to unpack there. What has it been like preparing for the SATs? Like, how have you been adjusting to that?
I really, really don't like studying for the SAT. I just find it so boring, and it's hard too, because you have to like decipher the language of the textbook, and it's like, all right, so you're going to give me a math problem, you're going to give me all these words, you won't tell me like hardly any numbers, and you want me to like take from this little clump of information the numbers I need, the 3 different processes I need to complete the problem, unless I know the shortcut. And then there's just like problems in the test that are designed to be missed, and you're supposed to fail them, and you're not supposed to get the right answer. There's questions like that, and you gotta be able to find them or know the shortcut, or else it will just take away the time that you can use to answer all the other questions. And sometimes it's like, you know what, this is going to take me like 15 minutes to solve this one problem. You have to be like, okay, I'm picking a letter that I'm picking an answer that I'm going to fill in, and then I'm moving to the next one. If I have enough time, I can come back to it and try to complete it. But like, it's really, there's that time pressure, that time crunch, and then deciphering the language, and it's pretty hard, and it's not fun.
Totally. I can totally empathize with you there. What are you, do you see, is dyslexia obviously, is that make it more challenging, or are you seeing, is there any strengths that you're seeing within kind of your dyslexic mind to decipher some of the stuff?
So like the biggest struggle I have with dyslexia for this test, with this test, like I've already said, is just deciphering the language and understanding what they want you to do.
Sure.
But there's also instances where like the process thinking that dyslexic might have will help you to like find maybe a less conventional route that you'll still arrive at the right answer and you'll still get the question correct. It just may not be the textbook way to do it.
Totally. Well said. And thanks for like reiterating that. I think it's important for our
Yeah.
audience to understand that. So I want to, we had a question on the line, and it kind of goes, you're preparing for college, you're doing the SATs, you're taking the test this week. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. This Wednesday.
okay.
I'm taking the test.
We're sending you all the luck in the world. Everyone on the line is
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
But with that, do you know what you want to study at the college level? Do you have an idea of where you want to take it?
I think like I'm either gonna go with a biology or biochemistry major. I'm thinking about the idea of to maybe do pre-med and to try to become a doctor. Like I'm thinking about that, but like I've always known that for my major, I'm just gonna go into the sciences. I don't think I could do the English major and just all the technicalities of it. I love reading, but like all the different literary devices and like different things that you have to decipher from like the 5 layers of like complex text can be really hard.
It sounds like you kind of have your path outlined. Like
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
uh,
No, yeah.
that's really cool. And you're getting a bunch of feedback on the line right now. Go for it.
Yeah.
Everyone's wishing you luck. I mean, I'm sure people, you know this. We need more doctors in the world. So if you're taking a shot at it, go for it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I want to talk about, do you use any assistive technology? Have you found that to be a benefit in the classroom, even preparing for college essays or anything? Are you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's like, I love Audible. I need, like, I don't think I could, like, Audible for me is really important for English class, especially for Shakespeare and other novels. Like, I read this historical novel as an independent reading project, and it was just so nitty and gritty and took so long and was so technical that it was just much easier to listen to it and then to ramp up the speed that you listen to it so you get done with it faster. But, like, I use Audible a lot for like listening to text that is too hard for me to read. And then I use a lot, like spell check is just like, what would you do without spell check? Like, it's like sometimes like you misspell the word so wrong that it doesn't know which word to give you. It's like, okay, like I'm trying to spell this one word, but I have no idea how to spell it. And then when it goes to spell check, it's a completely different word that I don't want in my text. So, like, spell check for me is also really helpful. So, for me to be able to succeed.
Those are some great ones, and thanks for sharing that. And also on the line, somebody dropped the Instapaper which is a program that allows you to download articles. You can change the text of it.
Yeah.
And you can actually have it read to you as well. So that's a cool one. And then to go with Audible, Learning Ally, for those that have subscriptions, just an awesome opportunity to see that. And thanks for sharing those, as well as Grammarly, and just some options out there for the audience to be aware of. And we also have a list on the Oregon IDA website of these assistive technologies that our students like. So appreciate you sharing there. I want to get into something with you because you're academic. I get it. You're focused, but you also love the outdoors and you play soccer. And I want to know, what does that do for you? And what specifically do you like to do outside? And then have you seen a benefit to being outside and then coming back into the classroom?
Okay. So things that I love to do outside, me and my family have a cabin, this family cabin up in Northwoods on the Swift Reservoir, up by Mount St. Helens. And there's just a water feature, and we recently got kayaks, so we can go kayak out there when the water's in. And we do a lot of hiking and just being out in the nature. And like me and my grandpa sometimes just go for drives and just go off and find something and then come back home eventually. And I also really do love soccer, and the benefit I see for being able to go outside the classroom and do something, or stop learning for a second and then go do something, is that if you get some exercise and get the fresh air, it allows you to first take your mind off of any stress that you might have. And then because you're working and you're energized from being active, you can come back into the classroom or to your homework. And then you have that energy, and then you can take it and use it to do the studies that you need to, versus just sitting in a chair for hours and hours and hours. And I know that can be really draining, especially at this time where we're all doing online schooling.
Absolutely. I think that's good advice. And so if you're listening, you're a student, you're at your computer, find that activity that allows you to go outdoors, or at least get away from the computer screen for that time period. It sounds like, is your experience is just allows you to refresh. And I think that's true of I think it's especially true for dyslexics because of the amount of energy we're putting into our work. But I also think it's true for anybody. I would challenge everybody online, whether you're dyslexic or not, find that activity that gives you some exercise, some breathing, and just a different, maybe a different change of venue from our day to day.
Yeah.
What are you on a team with soccer? Or are you just playing for fun, or?
Yeah, so I'm on a club soccer team, and it's really different this year because we have to do physical distancing and making sure that we're at least like 6 feet apart. Our coach personally says 10 feet apart so everyone can be safe. So there's like no contact, and like you have to get your like temperature checked, and like you have to go through all these steps. But also I feel like sports in this time can also like provide you with exercise as well as a social circle to interact with people in person and to work together towards a goal and towards bettering yourself at your sport. And I know that I enjoy that teamwork aspect and that social aspect that I get through soccer. And sadly, we haven't been able to do that the past like week and a half because of all the smoke that has been around.
Yeah. I was going to ask, have you been safe with all that stuff? Is your family good with all the fires and stuff that were happening?
Yeah. Yes, there was just a lot of smoke, but like we were safe. Like the first couple of days, like all the light was tinted like yellow, and then like it just felt like there was a permanent fog, and it was really cold, but like we were all safe and everything was good with my family.
Well, that's great. I'm grateful to hear that. That's definitely important. I want to touch on soccer really quickly. What position do you play?
I play a variety of positions. I usually play the 7 or 11, and for people who are unfamiliar with soccer, that would be like the right or left wing. But I
Okay.
also can play like right or left back, which is like the 1 or the 4. And there's like a number system once you get to like a high enough level for like positions. But like I usually play on the outside. I'm either up as a forward or back on defense.
Okay. And then have you found is has being dyslexic, or has that been a challenge for you with soccer, or is it when you're outside it doesn't even matter, it's irrelevant?
It really doesn't matter. Like sometimes like it takes me like a little bit to understand a drill. Sometimes I'm like I'm totally lost what we're supposed to do for this drill. But like really it doesn't really affect me that much being on the soccer field, just being physical and playing with my teammates. I just find that I can just be myself and it doesn't really affect me in any way.
That's awesome. And I think it's important to kind of have that conversation, because I think so many people get, not so many people, but I think people can be apprehensive about going out for a sport, because maybe not understanding a drill can seem like a scary thing. But if you get walked through it, you get talked through it, you'll know what to do, and you can just go
Mhm.
play your sport. So I think it's important just to work through some of those things, because the benefits outweigh the maybe some of the scary things about playing a
Yeah.
sport.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, cool. All right. So the rule on the show is the guest gets the last word. So if you have a message for students or teachers or parents out there, and it could be anything that you've touched on or anything that you'd like to share, as kind of a final thought.
Ooh. I think that what's really important for like dyslexics is like to be able to have like an outlet or like something that you can be you in and that you won't struggle in, or something that you enjoy, because like a lot of times there's a lot of struggle and hardship with academics and with reading and writing and learning and all those different things, but like you need to be able to have an outlet to be able to like get away from all the frustration, whether it be art, whether it be sports, whether it would be listening to music. It's like anything. Just like to be able to find something to relieve stress that your day-to-day life can bring to you. I think that is important.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think that is a great message to leave the audience with. We appreciate your time on a Monday. I know you got a busy week ahead of you.
Mhm.
We wish you
Yeah.
all the best in the SATs, as well
Hmm.
as your essays and your next endeavors. And just thank you for your dedication to Oregon IDA and supporting students. It's just awesome, man. And we wish you all the best.
All right. Thank you. I hope you have a good rest of your evening.
You too, man. Take care.
All right. Bye.